Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and we are back with yet another video talking about more roster cuts that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made, and I am again not alone in this video, returning yet again here on the channel. It is Evan of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Evan, it's a new day with new roster cuts, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well today. Obviously, it's a tough day in the NFL for a lot of different guys. But as far as me personally, I'm doing good. Just trying to keep up with all the transactions because not only are the Bucs cutting players, but also other players around the league like Cam Newton are being cut. So pretty much there's some surprises and a lot of moves. So
Yeah, I've definitely been kind of keeping track of a lot of the guys who have been cut, I guess, in regards to other teams. Cam Newton being one of them. That's kind of a big one. It's a pretty long list of interesting names that are out there right now, so we will definitely have to keep an eye on that. But we're not talking about all those teams today. We're talking about the Buccaneers specifically. And there's three names, or four names rather, that we're going to be mentioning in this video, Evan. And they are Brandon Walton, who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have waived offensive tackle, CJ Procise, running back, who he's not officially released yet, but that is definitely one that is presumed to happen here coming up soon. Cyril Grayson, the wide receiver, and then the guy who's going to be on the title of this video, Ryan Griffin, the quarterback. So, what are your thoughts on all four of these guys? Let's go ahead and start off with Brandon Walton.
yeah, well, Walton was another guy that, like I said, they brought in because they just had so many injuries along the offensive line, and it just kept hitting them in the same spot. So you need to have bodies, and I don't expect them to be back on the practice squad. So I think this is probably it for him. Like I said, just another camp body that you need to have. I think.
It was interesting thing to note on him was Greg Auman even said, like, hey, he could come back as a practice squad guy. That was interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know a lot of people might just write it off as saying exactly what you said. I'm not saying you're wrong here. I do agree with
Mm-hmm.
you in saying that, like, yeah, the guy's a camp body. He was here due to injuries along the offensive line, and maybe he'll be on a practice squad somewhere else. But for Greg Auman, pretty reputable guy to say, hey, maybe he could be brought back on the practice squad. Maybe it's a wait and see type scenario with that. There's still a couple of guys along that offensive line that are presumed to get cut here in the coming hours. So we'll see. Maybe if some of those guys get picked up, there might be a spot there for Brandon Walton. But like you said, big, young, developmental type of offensive lineman. Maybe he has a future. We'll have to wait and see on that. But moving forward to some of the other guys there, and I do wish nothing but the best for all these guys and whatever future opportunities present themselves. CJ Procise, Evan, what are your thoughts on that, and what future he may have here with the Buccaneers?
Yeah, Procise was a guy I thought might have been able to make the team with a good camp in preseason. And he just really didn't do it consistently enough. I think in the one game he was completely healthy. I think it was a Tennessee game, and he had like 3 snaps or something in the second half when all the other backups were playing. To me, that kind of signaled the writing was on the wall, and this was going to happen for Procise. I'm not sure if he sticks around. Maybe, I think if they're going to add a practice squad running back, maybe he's that guy. He has a little bit of NFL experience anyway, so maybe they elect to keep a guy like that. But as far as the 53-man roster, I don't think they were going to carry 5 running backs unless Procise or somebody else really impressed either on special teams or during the preseason games, and he just didn't do that.
Yeah, CJ Procise, he's such an interesting guy. I know there's a lot of people who love that, love CJ Procise, for his receiving ability, kind of a lot of people feel like he may be underrated, but like you said, he just didn't flash enough, I guess, for lack of a better word here in training camp and in the preseason. It's not that he didn't do anything bad per se. It's just like he didn't pop with great play. He was just kind of a guy who was there. They could bring him back on the practice squad, and me and you have talked about this. According to certain kind of nuggets that have been dropped around, other reports and things along those lines. Pay attention to the back end of the Buccaneers running back depth chart here. We could see some very interesting developments depending on, what they want to do with Keshawn, Vaughn, and the waiver wire and things like that. So CJ Procise may be a candidate for the practice squad. But but they also may have a little bit more movement towards the back end of the Buccaneers running back depth chart as well. Again, we don't know anything. This is just us, assuming here and just kind of giving our own thoughts and opinions on this, but definitely worth paying attention to. CJ Procise at the end of the day, just kind of felt like a guy, but could be brought back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second to last name I want to mention here is Cyril Grayson, wide receiver. They've cut Jaydon Mickens. They've cut Travis Johnson. I made a video about that earlier on this morning. And now Cyril Grayson as well. Buccaneers carrying 6 wide receivers. That's kind of a surprise to me. This one isn't as surprising as the Jaydon Mickens one, because I thought if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to carry 7 wide receivers, it would have been Jaydon Mickens. But Cyril Grayson, man, it's a weird thing with them. They always seem to have this he just always seems to stick around until the very end. So what are your thoughts on Cyril Grayson here?
Yeah, so the cuts in the wide receiver room, they were going to be the most notable ones just because it's such a deep room and you recognize a lot of these guys' names. To me, it also is a surprise that they're only going to carry, it seems like they're only going to carry 6 wide receivers. We won't know officially until obviously the rosters come out. And then after that, you have some moves. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I always looked at Grayson as a guy who realistically wasn't going to be the 7th guy. He's really just a fast guy who just didn't really flash that much. Had a nice little connection with Kyle Trask in the preseason, had some nice plays. But I just don't think he did enough. And compared to the other wide receivers like a Jaydon Mickens, I think Jaydon Mickens was outplaying him. I think Jaydon Mickens is still the better player. I think they would like to keep Grayson around. I don't think this is the end for him. Whereas Mickens, I think they would love to keep him around. The issue with that is I think another team may be eyeing him up now as well. So we'll see what happens. But as far as Travis Johnson and Cyril Grayson go, I think both those guys are likely to stick around. So I don't know if this is the end of Cyril Grayson, but you saw him week 2 versus Carolina last year when he had that pass doink off of his helmet. I don't think you're going to be seeing him in the regular season anytime soon.
It's such an interesting thing. I mean, the guy's been on and off with the practice squad, the active roster for a couple of years now. And it's been such an interesting thing to follow. The coaching staff likes him, I mean, to some degree, otherwise they wouldn't keep on bringing him back. Like you said, in the case of Jaydon Mickens, I talked about this earlier this morning. I expect a team to pick him up, whatever team it may be. So you're probably realistically looking at maybe Travis Johnson and Cyril Grayson being on the Buccaneers practice squad if they don't want to go somewhere else. They have that option if they clear waivers, if another team doesn't pick them up. Maybe that's a possibility, as maybe a 6th wide receiver or something along those lines. But, I do think it's also pretty likely that they could also end up back on that Buccaneers practice squad. Cyril Grayson, he's done it before. Seems like he's probably going to end up in that spot again. Like you said, he has a lot of speed. And, besides that, it's been overall just, again, he's kind of been a guy, He's got average hands, maybe a little bit of some average route running. And his main calling card is his speed, but the Buccaneers just don't need that right now. So we'll have to wait and see what they do with him. Like you said, practice squad, probably a strong possibility there. But the final name that we're going to be talking about here, Evan, it's the guy in the title. It's Ryan Griffin. And man, it has been such an interesting situation for Ryan Griffin, right? Real quick before I give my thoughts on it, what do you think about the Ryan Griffin saga, man? Maybe potentially coming to an end here.
Yeah, and you say that. I do think he'll be back on the practice squad. Mm-hmm. I think. I'm not 100% sold he's just gone, because I think they're definitely going to have a quarterback on the practice squad just because this year with the protocols that are still in place and the numbers that you're getting out right now, you don't know who's going to be available week to week still. We're getting better at it, but you don't know. So I think they want to keep a quarterback on that practice squad for sure. What better guy than to do with NFL experience, experience in your system. So I think it makes a lot of sense to keep him on the practice squad. But if it isn't him, if it's somebody else, and this is truly it for Ryan Griffin, I mean, to be the longest tenured Bucs QB in history, that's crazy that it's him, right? That's going to be, 20, 30 years down the line. That's going to be like a trivia question one day. Like, if there isn't somebody, well, if there isn't somebody, that means that probably wasn't a great era of Bucs football again. But just up until whatever, who was the longest tenured QB in Bucs history? I don't think many people are going to get Ryan Griffin, right? Not many people are going to guess that. It's truly incredible, what he was able to do and just stick around. His preseasons were really good, except this year just didn't really click for him, and I'm not sure if whether having no preseason last year affected him that way, or he's technically like he didn't really get in any games last year anyway, so he barely played, football against another team last year. So I'm not sure if that affected him. It just wasn't the same. And obviously, I think the drafting of Kyle Trask, he knew the writing was on the wall. I think even if Ryan Griffin had a really good preseason, I really don't think he would have made the roster anyway. I mean, barring any injury, I think that was the only way he was going to make the roster. So if this is it, good job, Griff. I can't believe you've lasted this long, to be honest with you. I mean, it seems like he's gone through what I think he was signed. I believe he was signed when Lovie Smith was still here too. So he's gone through 3 head coaches now, countless quarterbacks, and crazy that Ryan Griffin has lasted this long. So if this is it for you, thanks for everything you did in Tampa and good luck.
He's been on the team since 2015, by the way.
Okay, so I mean, Lovie was fired after the 2015 season, so yeah. Ryan Griffin would have been on Lovie Smith's team. So that's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's we've talked about this, right? Ryan Griffin was in an impossible situation the moment they drafted Kyle Trask, because they love Blaine Gabbert. They love the gift of Gabbert. It is what it is, right? He's their backup, right? That's what Bruce Arians just said for the past 2 years now. And then in the case of Kyle Trask, you're not getting rid of Kyle Trask. So I'm convinced that unless Ryan Griffin came out and threw for 1,000 yards in 3 games and 6 touchdowns, and Blaine Gabbert threw 7 interceptions and no touchdowns, there was no way he was going to get in over Blaine Gabbert. And then you just don't, you don't keep Ryan Griffin over Kyle Trask. That doesn't happen. So, and you don't carry 4 quarterbacks either. So, really, Griffin, he was just in a really impossible situation. Like you said, he knew that, right? He knew the writing was on the wall. It is what it is at the end of the day. It's a business, and Ryan Griffin knows that. You said, you kind of said, maybe the practice squad. There's a couple of teams that I would think could potentially pick up Ryan Griffin. He's a vested veteran. He doesn't go to waivers. He can sign wherever he wants. So I think of the Indianapolis Colts. They just cut Brett Hundley. Sam Ellinger is dealing with an injury. They could bring in Ryan Griffin. And then the New York Jets. They just cut Josh Johnson. Sure, they have a couple of guys like Mike White and James Morgan. But they could use a veteran backup, similar build to Zach Wilson. That could be a legitimate possibility there as well. Those are the 2 names that immediately come to my mind. This may very well be the end, right? And like you said, what a ride. Preseasons with Ryan Griffin have been so fun, and people were at some points even calling for him to start over guys like Jameis Winston and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Get Griffin out there, get him some regular season snaps. It never really happened until I believe he took maybe 3 or 4 play, 1 drive, I think was what he had gotten in a regular season game. And people kind of cooled off at that point. They're like, okay, maybe not. And then just this preseason, everybody turned on him, right? I think a fair number of people turned on him and said, we don't want to see Ryan Griffin anymore. We want to see Kyle Trask, which I understand. You want to see the young rookie, but what a roller coaster towards the end here with Ryan Griffin, right? It's been something that has definitely been worth paying attention to. And even now, even with his release, we'll see what happens. Will he go be a backup for another team that's dealing with injuries and lack of veteran quarterbacks in a room? Or will he be able to come back to the Buccaneers practice squad per his own choice and stay with a team that he's been comfortable with now for 6 years? 6 years he's been on the team. The man's been a third-string quarterback mostly a third-string quarterback for those 6 years. What a freaking ride, right? And we've talked about it, end of an era, right? Tanner Hudson and Ryan Griffin now both gone. Those guys had some magical connections in the preseason, and, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But, Evan, before we go ahead and end off this video, we have one more video to make after this talking about some defensive players that were released. Do you have any final words?
Yeah, one real quick note on the whole Kyle Trask thing. I know it was suggested to me, a few people said, well, why can't you just put Trask on the practice squad and Griffin to keep him? There's no way, no, regardless of what you think of Kyle Trask, whether you think Kyle Trask is going to be the next great quarterback or a complete bust, there's no way you're going to be able to sneak that guy on the practice squad. It's just not going to happen. Right? I mean, he wouldn't even make it through waivers. So I think the team who's first on the claim, I think it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe is it still the draft order. They would probably claim him, even though they have Trevor Lawrence. They would probably still claim him.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't last very long. So you can't do that. And you know, it's unfortunate, but it's just a numbers game. And at the end of the day, Griffin's production wasn't good enough. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people hate Blaine Gabbert. I think Blaine Gabbert is a better quarterback than Ryan Griffin. Because I mean, there's a reason that Ryan Griffin hasn't ever taken really regular season snaps. I think the one game you were referring to was a game versus the Colts. I think James Winston got a little banged up. Griffin came in for a drive, and it wasn't that pretty. So, good luck to Griffin, and good luck to all those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish nothing but the best for, all four of those guys in their future endeavors. Be with the Buccaneers, be with another team out of the NFL, whatever it may be. Seriously, best wishes to all of four of those guys. I agree with what you said there about the practice squad as well. There would have been no chance, right, that Trask would have been on there. So, hey, that is what it is. Griffin wasn't in an impossible situation, and that's just how the NFL goes sometimes, But, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Go subscribe to the Cannon Fire Podcast here on YouTube. I will have a link to their YouTube channel in the pinned comment down in the comment section down below. What do you think about these releases? Ryan Griffin, and all these other guys like Cyril Grayson, CJ Prosise, who's, presumably going to be released, as well as Walton as well, the offensive tackle. Give us your thoughts on all that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.